My name is Adriana Mandy. I'm the director of the Education Resource Center at the California School for the Blind. I'm very excited about the collection of people that we have here today from both California State University, Los Angeles, my alma mater in getting my TVI credential, and San Francisco State University, where I currently have the pleasure of teaching an AT class at. So I love both of these programs and universities, and I am a thorough believer that staying in tune with the two providers of credentials in our field is incredibly important in our small field where networking is half of our battle for coming up with resources for our students and plans for ourselves and our own teaching and education. We need to stay tied to our universities. So thank you for those of us joining us today, and thank you for people joining later online. And really looking forward to what you guys all have to share today. And the floor is yours, and I will help man the chat and do it. But thank you, Sandy, Brenda, Nick, Ting, Cheryl, thrilled to have you here. Wow. Sandra, I think you are muted if you're starting off.
Okay. Okay, I guess O&M, we're going to talk about O&M programs at the universities. And then when we finish that, we're going to move on to VI. And I'm delighted to share this part of the presentation with my colleagues in O&M from Cal State LA. And they are Nick Casias and Brenda Naimy. So welcome everyone. We have a PowerPoint that we're going to share. And our talk is going to start off with a little bit about what O&M is. Many of you already know about O&M, but there might be some here who don't. So we'll start with that and then tell you about our programs. So let me pull up a PowerPoint. Give me just a second to get it in a viewable format. And here we go. And turn it over to my colleague, Nick.
Hello, I'm Nick Casias with Cal State University Los Angeles Orientation and Mobility Specialist Program. The title of our presentation is Orientation and Mobility, Teach in a Classroom Without Walls. First slide we're going to take a look at is going to identify what orientation and mobility is. And it is the skills used by people who have visual impairment to navigate the environment safely, independently, and equally important, gracefully. This could include travel in both the home, school, work setting, and community environments. It's really wherever the individual may want to go. What population do O&M specialists serve? O&M specialists serve or work with infants, children, youth, adults, senior citizens. The cool part is the choice can be yours. Again, O&M specialists work in a wide range of settings. This does include public schools, residential schools for students with visual impairments, state and or private rehabilitation centers, veteran administration's rehabilitation centers known as blind rehab centers. And you can also be an independent contractor and work for private agencies or perhaps the California Department of Rehab. For any prospective or interested future O&M specialists, what's the job market like? I would describe it as outstanding. The federal government has listed O&M as an area of critical shortage or need. And we're proud to say that SFSU and CSU LA have almost 100% employment rate of our graduates.
And as an O&M specialist, it's not just one thing you do. Depending on who you serve, it's a variety of things you might find yourself doing on any given day. For example, if you work with infants and toddlers, you might be teaching basic movement and use of sensory information, such as this person working with a little one to develop balance skills. If you work with preschoolers, you might be teaching them about the environment. What is a car? What is a curb? What's a tree? You might be teaching either children or adults how to use a long cane to find their way from their house to their friend's house or through the halls of San Francisco State. You might teach use of technology such as GPS systems that are designed specifically for use by people who have visual impairments, or low vision devices such as the telescope on the right, the little monocular they call it, where the student is able to see a sign across the way. Using tactile and auditory maps, 3 graduate students who just created tactile maps. Mental mapping, showing folks how to orient themselves to new environments they've never been to. How do you do shopping? How do you tell a $5 bill from a 1? All the life skills. O&Ms don't teach academics. We teach the life skills that go along with academics. Use of public transportation, getting on the right bus, getting off at the right place. But we teach more than just people who are visually impaired. We teach those who might be visually impaired but have other disabilities, or in some cases, mobility specialists work with people who are not visually impaired and just have other disabilities. The choice is yours. Here we have people with intellectual impairments learning to go to work, crossing the street, taking the right bus. People who have physical impairments. People who are deaf and blind. Even people who use dog guides. Now, we don't train the dogs, but we work with people before they get a dog to make sure they have all the prerequisite mobility skills. Or maybe an experienced dog user who's moved to a new area and needs to learn his way around. Okay, Nick, you're up.
So O&M is a small and specialized field. There's much room for both impact and growth as a professional. There's opportunities if your interest is research as well as advocacy. We typically take a multifaceted approach. You have an opportunity to be creative, to focus on conceptual or concept development with your students, and to facilitate experiential learning. Working as an O&M specialist truthfully offers opportunities for a variety of teaching experiences. Number one, you're going to work predominantly with an individual. You're working in a variety of settings. You're working with almost any age group, from birth to death. You get the opportunity to use the latest assistive technology, and many times you are itinerant, and so you are potentially working autonomously, or if you're fortunate enough to be paired with another teacher of the visually impaired, you can operate in a team atmosphere or environment. So who might want to become an O&M specialist? I would say it's someone who does like working one-on-one. It's someone who wants to work outdoors. The community is your classroom. And you really have to be passionate about developing independence and promoting the ability for your students to move freely throughout the world. And you could also be someone who wants to choose the setting and age group they serve. Again, you really have a choice to tailor your work experience to work with the population that you gravitate towards most. I do believe that O&M is the best teaching job in the world. So again, you get to have the freedom to be creative. You get to teach about the world. You get to develop individualized curriculum for your students. You get to work alongside TVIs, expanding your student skills. You get to work with paraprofessionals who want a career in the growing field. And if you yourself are a TVI and you want to expand your skills, or you're a paraprofessional who want to join and be a part of a career that's growing in the field, if you want to change, if you're looking for a second act, so to speak, I myself was not initially an O&M specialist, and I was so thankful to find this career. Or if you're someone who believes in community involvement and advocacy, again, this could be the job for you.
So, hi, I'm Brenda Naimy, and I have been program faculty at Cal State LA in the O&M program, and I think this is my 26th year, so time is flying by. So I actually think that's a really good sign that you found a good career. Other faculty in the program, Dr. Diane Foss has served as a coordinator for many, many years, longer than I've been at Cal State LA, and currently she is serving as the principal coordinator of a grant that we have to prepare candidates in both orientation and mobility and as teachers of the visually impaired. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. Dr. Nick Casias, you've just heard from, and then myself. I wanted to give you an idea of kind of what it might look like to participate in the O&M program, and then maybe a little bit about our dual program as well. So anyone who's interested in attending Cal State LA for the Orientation and Mobility program, we tell them that you want to be prepared to be really busy for a year. We're going to keep you busy day and night. In fact, we're going to keep you so busy that we're going to tell you that you probably won't be able to work while you're in the program. And even part of the interview process, we say, program's kind of stressful and demanding. How do you handle that? So it's kind of amazing. So while I don't want to scare anybody away, you have to kind of imagine that in 1 year, you can earn a credential serve individuals with visual impairment, as well as a master's degree. So most programs that you're attending, you know, take significantly longer than 1 year. So we get it all in there, and it has been structured like that for, I think, maybe the inception of the program. So I think for about 50 years, it has been structured in this kind of similar format. So we admit candidates in O&M in the summers and in the fall. And we have we're a tiny program. In the summer, we're pretty happy if we can get 4 students, but we would take up to 6. And in the fall, we're pretty happy if we can get 6, but we can take up to 8. So, and that's it. We're not accepting, you know, the rest of the year. So we have 2 really cohesive cohorts that, you know, when you through this program, you stay friends with the people you went through the program with, I think really for the rest of your career. Like, I'm still close friends with the man that I went through the program with 35 years ago. So it's kind of a cool setup when you're that close. And I think when you're doing something so intensive and working so hard, students are the greatest support for each other. So in the O&M program, if, for example, you started in the fall, that first term, you're going to be focused on learning the foundation skills. So, for example, all day today, I was working with a small group of 4 students where they were learning how to do the skills under blindfold. So we're in our 11th week of training, and they learned how to cross railroad tracks today. Which they never believe me when I tell them they're going to do that, and then they do it, and they're amazing. They boarded the Gold Line. That's in LA. That's our light rail, or local kind of commuter trains. And they took that to Pasadena, and then in Pasadena, we spent some time analyzing some very complex intersections. Particularly complex for people who are blind, who can't see the walk lights. So that's like one typical day in the very first term of training. They're learning the skills that they're going to be teaching under blindfold. And we think that this is incredibly valuable. To be able to learn the skill, you get that experience under blindfold, you realize how important it is that the person teaching you understands the skill well, they can articulate it very clearly, they can watch out for your safety and provide you feedback when you need correction in the process. So that first term, super busy with Sleep Shade, 2 full days a week. And then in the evenings, we have online courses and typically 1 in-person course. Following term, which would, well, in the winter, there's like a short, we call it a winter session or J session. Most of our students are taking a research class, and that's for part of the master's degree program. And in the following spring, they will start their first student teaching placement. So we will place them with a master teacher working in school districts, typically in LA County, but we've placed students in San Diego and Santa Barbara, Riverside, Corona. So we work all the surrounding counties because our students are coming from all over Southern California. And they're going to do their first student teaching placement where they work with a master teacher in orientation and mobility. And they're working at least 12 hours a week face-to-face with students. But we would tell you that 12 hours face-to-face instruction will likely take you up to 20 or 25 hours a week. actually do, because there's most of our student teaching is done on an itinerant basis. There may be students at a variety of schools. That same term, our students will also be taking classes in the evening and online, so we're keeping them pretty darn busy. And then the following term is their internship. It's their final field work. And the majority of our students are taking full-time jobs with one of 3 Veterans Administration hospitals. We work with the hospital in Long Beach, in Menlo Park, California, and also in Tucson, Arizona. And it's an 11-week internship, typically paid, which is kind of great. And this is where our students work with veterans who have visual impairment. So this kind of puts all the polish on their skill. And when they finish that internship, and if they've completed their comprehensive exams and their coursework successfully, they'll have completed the requirements for a credential and a master's degree in special education with the option in visual impairments in orientation and mobility. So there is another path that some of our students take. I'll talk very briefly about it because I think Dr. Kamei-Hannan will probably talk about it as well. And that's for our students who are interested in what we call dual credentials, both orientation and mobility, and as a teacher of the visually impaired. We do have grant support for students who are pursuing both credentials, and that's pretty exciting. That commitment is typically about a 3-year process. The roadmap will vary depending on whether you start orientation and mobility first or whether you start the program for teachers of students with visual impairments first. But we anticipate it will take about 3 years, pretty full-time work there. We do, for those students pursuing dual credentials, we are able to provide full tuition, which is kind of amazing, as well as a very extensive professional library in books. I think that's more than my time share on that slide.
Okay, I'm gonna advance. I'll talk a little bit about the San Francisco State program and point out some similarities and some unique factors. Like Cal State LA, we're one of the premier programs in the country and very proud of it. We are fully accredited at San Francisco State by the Association for Education and Rehab of the Blind and Visually Impaired. That's the national accreditation for O&M programs. We're also accredited by the State Commission on Teacher Credentialing. So when you graduate, you are good to go. And we have graduates who are employed all over the US, but internationally. We have folks who love international work and they are teaching in Russia, Australia, Germany, Japan. We have folks who have worked in Lebanon and Turkey, you name it. Our program is available full or part-time. You can attend classes on a full-time basis. It's about 1.5 years, or you can go part-time and stretch it out as long as you need. We designed the program to be as flexible as we can for those who work or have family commitments. And in that vein, we have distance ed opportunities. Most of our courses are online. A lot of them are done by Zoom. Some are held what they call asynchronously, where it's study modules and then meetings periodically. The O&M methods courses, Nature of the Beast, do have a lot of hands-on component, hands-on learning, and we schedule those sessions on Saturdays, about 7 per semester for 2 semesters. So it's not every Saturday, it's just about 7 a semester. We schedule courses individually because everyone's different. So whatever your time constraints are, whatever speed you need to go through the program at, we can accommodate you. Like the Cal State LA program, our program leads to several things. In California, what they call the Clinical Rehabilitative Services Credential. That's basically your good housekeeping seal. It tells you can practice in the public schools in California, but it's recognized in most of the country too. 1 more course, it's all it takes. You get a master's degree. And again, because we are AER accredited, our students are eligible to apply for the national certification in O&M, our national good housekeeping seal again, just indicator of quality skills. The San Francisco State program has several unique additional components. For example, we offer, in addition to O&M for students that want, a dual certification in low vision therapy. one additional course and an internship experience at the Western Blind Rehabilitation Center Low Vision Clinic lets you become dually credentialed in low vision and orientation and mobility. And several of our students have done that, and they're now working, some as dually qualified professionals. We also are developing an enhanced curriculum and resources supporting remote teaching. It's been a big thing during COVID days, and it's been a chance for us to really expand our curriculum and develop some new innovative teaching strategies for our students. Some additional features, like Cal State LA, we share interest in technology and really emphasizing the use of technology related to mobility and independent travel. And at San Francisco State, we have really comprehensive curriculum in serving students who have physical and health impairments, everything from using wheelchairs and walkers to working with someone who has seizures. And what are the warning signs of a seizure? How do you, in some cases, keep it from happening, or how do you respond? What about someone who has heart condition? How do you know how far you can work with them? That type of thing. How do you modulate your voice to improve a student's coordination if they have a brain injury? All these little tricks are what we teach in our course on physical and health impairments. A few additional features. At San Francisco State, we have an emphasis in neurovision rehabilitation. A growing population are people who have vision loss, not due to eye problems, but due to brain injury. It's a very different animal and a different type of visual need in O&M. And we are looking forward to expanding our research opportunities for students to participate if they wish. On tap, hopefully in the next year or two, we'll be doing research on a technique taken from physical therapy called proprioceptive neuromuscular facilitation. We stole it and modified it, and now we use it to teach cane and other movement skills in 1/3 the time. There is more. Stipend funding. We can pay most of your tuition for 2 semesters, but if you live several hundred miles from campus, we also provide $5,000 in travel funds. And we have folks who fly in from San Diego, Nevada, Oregon, you name it. And that's where the travel funds come in, or if they happen to be just even 200 or 300 miles from campus, but still in California. And we have a mentorship program with the California Association of O&M Specialists. You get paired, if you like, with a practicing O&M specialist who can help you network, answer questions about the field, whatever you need. And last but not least, we have a dual credential program, O&M and TVI, gives you increased job opportunities and career flexibility if you choose to go dual. It also enhances your skill set so you can address diverse needs of students and participate in transdisciplinary collaboration more effectively and more easily. It's not 2 programs, one on top of the other. We share a number of courses, so it's a streamlined program to get both credentials at the same time.
Become an orientation and mobility specialist? It's easy. Well, at least the application part. Right here, we have the contact information for San Francisco State University and Cal State LA. So at San Francisco State, Dr. Sandra Rosen is your key person, and her email is mobility@sfsu.edu, and the number is 510-449-9459. Somebody better check my numbers because I will mess those up if it's possible. Cal State LA, you can always contact Dr. Nick or myself, but Ann Jeanette Dwight is our grant project coordinator, and she is really the one that's responsible for walking our students through the application process. And her email is adwight, E-W-I-G-H-T, at calstatela.edu. And one last point. Universities do more than train O&M specialists. We're eager to partner with SELPAs and school districts.
And we can also help you recruit. If you're an administrator, we'll help you recruit and fill openings that you may have. And if you would like to train your own homegrown staff, talk to us and we can work with you to have them go through a program.
This is something that we currently do in a more of a unofficial manner, where we'll get a new a notice about a district interested in filling a position, but we're eager to partner and create a streamlined approach to really develop your homegrown staff in the future. So please, if you're an administrator or a SELPA director or somebody of that nature in the audience, give it some thought and reach out to one or both of the universities because we are ready and willing to be of service.
This has been a very quick overview of our programs. We did it quick purposely because time is short, but we're gonna stop screen sharing so you can see us again. And if you have any questions at some point, we'll answer questions or you know how to reach us. And Lee, turn it over to the moderators or whoever's next.
Thank you, Sandy. That was fantastic. And TVIs and O&Ms out there too. If you just heard what Nick and Leo and Brenda said, and Sandy, they're there to communicate with your teams about that streamlining a paraprofessional, another special ed teacher, a gen ed teacher, somebody on a school site staff. So that formula and opportunity to connect directly with the university is a brilliant way for us to fill some of these vacancies that have historically been really, really difficult to fill. Thank you. I think we'll do question and answer at the end. Otherwise, I know we'll get sucked into O&M only, and that it deserves more time than we're giving it. But for the moment, if Ting from San Francisco State and Cheryl from Cal State LA, if you guys could talk about the TVI programs.
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Cheryl Kamei-Hannan, and I'm the program coordinator at Cal State University, Los Angeles, who coordinates the program for the Education Specialist Credential in teacher preparation for teachers of students with visual impairments. Super long title. Basically, I coordinate the TVI program at Cal State LA. And Adrian, as a segue between O&M and TVI, there is a commercial that we have put together at Cal State LA that does highlight some of what TVIs and O&Ms do that may sort of perhaps bridge this transition between TVIs and O&Ms that if you don't mind playing, we could show. It's only about 1.5 minutes.
Awesome. Winnie, if you could share your screen and share that. Here we go.
Can everyone see or hear?
Most people would agree.
Can you full screen the video though?
Yes.
Agree that an ideal career isn't only about earning a comfortable living.
A woman dressed in business professional attire standing with a briefcase in hand and staring at a sketch of a staircase leading to the sky.
It would also be personally inspiring and one that truly makes a difference in the lives of others.
A video montage of adults working with students on academic and functional tasks.
If you agree, then consider a rewarding career as a teacher for students with visual impairments, an orientation and mobility specialist, or a duly prepared professional.
A student sitting at a table reading Braille.
Each year, graduates of the Visual Impairments and Blindness programs at Cal State LA launch successful careers teaching students the skills necessary for accessing curriculum and everyday environments, using specialized technology and getting safely from one place to another. To find out more about this exciting career, email us at adwight@calstatela.edu for O&M and dual preparation, or ckameih@calstatela.edu for teachers of students with visual impairments only. And be sure to ask about the full tuition scholarships available that even include a startup professional library of course books. Grants are available to eligible applicants. These scholarships do require that you work in the field of visual impairments and blindness 2 years for every year of tuition scholarship funding that you receive. That work must be with children who qualify as having disabilities. Work with adults does not qualify for payback. Contact us today. Because the high demand for experts in the field of visual impairments and blindness and orientation and mobility is expanding, and your dream career is awaiting you.
Thank you. So I think that that's a little bit of a segue, perhaps describing what our orientation and mobility program does at Cal State LA and also the counterpart, the VI program. And if there's information that you want to know about it, I will share a little bit more about Cal State LA in particular, but I thought that perhaps maybe Ting, you want to also introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Cheryl. Hey, everybody. I'm Ting Su. Some of my students call me Dr. Ting, or you can just call me Ting. And I am the Cheryl Kamei-Hannan of the North. So I coordinate the TVI program at San Francisco State. We are also a credential and master's program. And a little bit more about the work of the TVI. The TVI acronym is Teacher of Students with Visual Impairments, or Teacher of the Visually Impaired. I personally identify as a teacher of blind and low vision students. So our program, we do encompass a number of different philosophies about being advocates, accessibility facilitators, and promoting, empowering blind and low vision youth. And that really is the role of a TVI, is to empower our students to be engaged and active participants in their learning. For any of you guys who are already teachers or interested in teaching, I think of TVIs as the MacGyver of teachers. So if you're creative, if you're flexible, if you're one of those people who don't like to work in a box or in a room, TVI, in my opinion, is the best flavor of teacher, because we're basically always hacking things. So if there's a set curriculum, we're there to hack it to make it accessible for our blind and low vision students. If there's technology or apps in the classroom, we're there to hack it to make it accessible for blind and low vision students. So, for me personally, growing up, I never wanted to be a teacher. I thought it was very kind of a square profession. I love being a TVI because we get a lot of freedom and flexibility. We work one-on-one with students. We're in the classroom, we're working with families, and we're really looking at a student's access to information, both in the classroom, but also in a lot of areas outside the academic core curriculum. So we do also work in the expanded core curriculum, which is a set of 9 areas of learning and development that is specific to blind and low vision learners. So we also get to play around with social skills, rec and leisure, career training, self-determination, compensatory skills, and teaching students how to access information using visual, auditory, tactile, haptic, and all sorts of different sensory strategies. So that's part of what I love about it. No 2 days are the same. It's always a new adventure. Most of our TVIs are also working in an itinerant capacity, which means we get to travel to see students in different areas. So that also means if you don't like being confined to a single classroom in the day, or maybe you've already been a classroom teacher and you're kind of tired of being confined in that classroom all day, TVI it's a great change. So we often welcome career changers or just people who want to apply their creative skills in a way where you can pay it forward to the next generation. So Cheryl, anything you want to add about the TVI profession?
I think you did a great job. So the title of this presentation is What's New in the CSU. So I thought I would talk a little bit about what's going on at Cal State LA. And I see many names in the participant window who I recognize. Some of you are alumni of Cal State LA, and perhaps you just want to know a little bit about how you can support recruitment into both of the 2 programs and into the profession, but also perhaps you want to know what's going on right now at Cal State LA and perhaps how it's a little different. So I thought I would summarize just for a moment or two a little bit about what's going on at Cal State LA in particular. So right now our program is very healthy. We have about 60 to 75 students that are enrolled currently, and they're at all different places within their program. Some of them are just starting, some of them are in their 3rd year and 4th year in their master's degree. And it's always hard for me to put an exact pinpoint on the number because our students do float in and out of the program and come back and go away and come back and definitely stay in touch. And it's always nice to see our students as they move through their careers. As Brenda said, I do feel like we know each other well, and you begin to form your cohort and your professional colleagues, which you end up usually knowing for a lifetime. So that's kind of cool. Right now we have a 2-year credential program, and it's a 3rd year to add on the master's degree. And we focus right now, our classes are primarily online, and we do have lab sessions where we bring our students onto campus. I feel very strongly that it's important to have some some time under low vision goggles and under sleep shades, and also assessing and working in field work with students that are visually impaired. So we have several different lab settings where we bring in students from the community, and we work with the students in the community, providing them services. We have our Excel Academy, which meets on Saturdays. And this program used to be primarily face-to-face up until the pandemic. Last fall, we ran it in a virtual setting, and it looks like this fall we're also going to run it in a virtual setting. It's a very cool program. Our students do their early fieldwork in this program under a very guided, mentored situation where university supervisors are there to support the students. We bring in about 30 to 40 students from the surrounding community. When we were face-to-face, we had a wait list for our program, and students would come in from ages kindergarten through the age of 22 from all over. We had a student who came down regularly from Modesto. We had families who would drive up from San Diego, San Bernardino, Riverside, Santa Barbara, and attend our Excel Academy. And the parents had a great time networking with each other. They started movie days, and the parents would go out and see movies together while our teachers worked with the families. And that was really nice to see them networking and getting to know each other as well. Our teachers then supported our students from 9 till 2:30, and they taught expanded core curriculum. It was a chance for the teachers to really understand what it meant to work with a student or a group of students in a more self-contained environment, and provide them with learning opportunities that supported science and math goals, academic goals, and expanded core curriculum. And so we tried to integrate all of that learning together. We do promote a theme-based learning curriculum. And so one year our theme was all about the ocean. And we took our students on field trips to see urban tide pools, and we took them to the aquarium. And we integrated all of the STEM learning with expanded core curriculum. We served fish. We dissected fish, and we also served and cooked fish. And so we talked about ocean sustainability and healthy eating habits. And we also planned our meals, cooked our meals, and so forth in a small group setting. So it was a really cool program. The pandemic changed things slightly, and we went virtual. And we prepped for our virtual learning through partnering with the American Printing House for the Blind. And part of the Virtual Excel Academy, if anyone was familiar with it, it was based on our Excel Academy at Cal State LA. But we went somewhat international. It was something we didn't expect, but we reached over 2,000 families and 19 different countries through our virtual Excel Academy that ran in the springtime, and our summer camps that ran all through the summer, again, in partnership with Paths to Literacy, Perkins, Texas School for the Blind, and APH. And then in the fall, our class resumed again, and we had our virtual Cal State Excel Academy, and we were able to reach about 125 families through our Cal State LA program, again, providing students and families with a online-based learning scenario where our early fieldwork was provided by our teachers in the program to these families that were able to register and attend. It was really cool. There was one girl I remember who was a middle schooler who joined us, and she really wanted to learn how to cook. So we worked on cooking lessons with her throughout the whole semester, and at Thanksgiving time, she was able to cook, or bake, I should say, the pumpkin pie for dessert. And it was a huge highlight for her to be able to bake the pumpkin pie. And I'll admit, for me, at the beginning of the semester, I was a little bit uncomfortable with teaching oven skills virtually, but we made it happen and we made it work. And it was supported by the families at home. And the teacher did a wonderful job in our Excel Academy teaching these skills to the point where she was independently able to bake this pie. And it was a huge highlight for her and for her family, for her to be able to do this. And so we're running our Excel Academy in the fall again, and our teachers will be providing the instruction. We have this semester, we're anticipating between 12 and 15 teachers, which means that we'll be able to hold probably about 100 students again. So if you have anyone in your school districts who are interested in participating. We'll be sending out recruitment materials for Excel Academy. And again, it's a highlight of our teachers who are moving through the program and a nice way to network the community into our program as well. So we're able to serve our students and families in our local areas as well. So I would say that's new for CSU. A couple other things, we've been very busy, both Ting and I in San Francisco and at Cal State LA. We've adopted new teacher performance expectations, which means we as coordinators get to revise our curriculum and therefore adopt the newest and the greatest in strategies and best practices. So we're now going through a curriculum revision process. And Nick at Cal State LA has been very integral into that procedure as well, because it means that we're adopting new courses, we're changing to a more technology mediated approach, we're revising and updating all of our syllabi and making sure that we're integrating the most recent in best practices and instructional strategies. A couple other highlights just for you to kind of maybe know and keep track of for our alumni. There may be some changes coming up, and those changes are somewhat in the rumor phase right now, but just kind of something to know about. We are going to be adopting a teacher performance assessment, and Ting and I have been very hard at work putting together the teacher performance assessment. And I'm a little bit excited about it because I think it's going to somewhat standardize what we're doing across the state and perhaps even bring in some new best practices that we're able to promote on a statewide level. So I'm really excited about that. I think that where it has a lot of potential is perhaps in thinking about how we conduct functional vision assessments and learning media assessments, and perhaps coming up with a statewide model that we're able to promote and use, and also have as a model for other in-service teachers who are needing to conduct FVAs and LMAs. We'll be able to promote a model that we're going to start teaching at the university and therefore can also be put out for practitioners in the field. So that's exciting. The other rumor that is kind of out there in the rumor reel, we're still not quite sure what's happening, is that the RECA may be changed or perhaps may even go away. So that's something else to just kind of keep an eye out for in the legislation. So that's what's new at the CSU, at least at Cal State LA. And I'll let Ting take the floor for a moment and tell us what's new at San Francisco State.
Okay, great. Thank you, Cheryl. I think I'm most excited about the state potentially getting rid of the RECA. That means requirements for credentialing they're going to change. There's possibly, some changes for applications. So at San Francisco State, we have flexed during our pandemic. So do be sure to check our website for the most updated application requirements. I know for anybody with test anxiety, the CSET might be a big thing that you hear about with applications. For our SF State programs, just have a test registered, but do not let the CSET test requirement stress you out from applying. So we are very flexible, and students can actually begin the program while still trying to pass the CSETs. There's a lot of room timing wise to finish out that requirement. Personally, I hope they get rid of it by the time students actually need to do it, but we'll see. So a little bit more about our SF State program. Our program actually shifted to Zoom in 2016. So we've actually been a hybrid program for several years already. That means that we didn't have to shift too much during the pandemic to remote. What that also means is that with our shift to a hybrid program in 2016, our program underwent a complete refresh to ensure that the entire program is fully accessible to all students, including those who are blind or have low vision. So we want our students to walk the walk, talk the talk. And so all of our graduates come out knowing how to advocate for, but also be the highest quality practitioners in advancing strategies for multimedia accessibility. So I really believe that the best TVIs are those who have a really good understanding of how to facilitate accessibility in the classroom. And our graduates, they drink that water cooler, and we really operate with that philosophy of universal inclusion. And part of that, as our responsibilities as TVIs, is to know how to create accessible and welcoming learning environments. So as part of that, our program has a very community feel, despite having this hybrid thing of, all classes on Zoom. In non-pandemic times, we usually meet in person for a lab weekend once every semester. Our program does cover the cost of housing at the San Francisco Lighthouse for the Blind. And the Lighthouse is also an extension of our program where it functions as our learning lab. So students get to stay at the Lighthouse for certain classes like the living skills class. They'll cook a meal together also, although I don't think we can compete with sushi night at Cal State LA. But I know there's usually some sort of 3-course meal. Maybe Cheryl will swap sushi for like a wine tasting event. So Hobie Wedler will usually come and visit and do a tasting in the dark with our students, which is really nice. I do love how in our states we have such a great grassroots and community effort across both programs. We also have several scholarships that are available to students in our VI programs. A couple of the scholarships are actually specific to only the VI programs. And we also offer support for students to attend conferences, to gain leadership experience by presenting at conferences for those who feel comfortable. But because we've been hybrid, we try to nurture a pretty strong community, both online and in person. So it becomes pretty fun. We usually have about 20 students come in for the fall, about 10 to 15 for the spring semesters. Really, there's only 2 months out of the whole year where our application window is closed, but otherwise it's pretty much a rolling application process, I would say. One exciting thing that I think we've been doing at San Francisco State is California does not have undergraduate teaching programs, but at San Francisco State, we do have an undergrad pathway so that for anybody coming in as an undergrad who already knows that they might be interested in the TVI or O&M program, they can actually do the special ed minor. And there's a pathway for undergrads to do their undergrad and get a credential in 5 years. So for those coming in with the bachelor's already, it's a 2-year VI program plus student teaching, so it's a total of 5 semesters. And then you can add O&M for an additional year afterwards. And we are set up to support working students. So all of our classes are 4 to 7 p.m. Student teaching seminars on Saturday. But I would say every single one of our students, our graduates, have job offers, plural, in hand before graduation. Most of our students are also hired to work as intern teachers before finishing the program. So I would say like 9 out of 10 student teachers are already working as TVIs while they're student teaching. So then student teaching becomes like a paid employment experience that they get supervision and support for. So I think with that, I'll leave it here. And oh, I meant to do the weather woman thing and point to the background as I was speaking, but I forgot to do that. But if you would like more information, oh, there we go. You can find us on social media. We're on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. We have a very active YouTube channel where we do tech talks every couple of months. So you can find us on social media at VI Program SFSU, and you can learn more about the program on our website. It's viprogram.sfsu.edu, and I will also type it into the chat if that's easier for you to get to. And finally, my email is ysiu@sfsu.edu. And for anybody interested in more about my work in multimedia accessibility, you can also find me on Twitter at TVI_Ting. And I think that leaves us a few minutes for Q&A.
Yeah, this not so passive background advertising is the way to go, I've discovered. We do have almost 10 minutes for questions and answers. And so thank you all for breaking that down. Whenever I get myself into this pickle, I'm always like, I could go back and get my O&M. Like, that could work, right? And then I think think that through twice. But it well worth it. And praise to all of you who have done the dual. Anybody is welcome to unmute and ask a question directly or type a question into the chat, and I'm happy to read it out for you. I'm coming to Cal State LA again, see? All right, Miguel, did you unmute?
I have a question. Yeah, I unmuted. I have a question. All right, I have a couple of questions. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Go for it.
Okay. So a couple of questions. So so it would be recommended that I take the CBEST before I start the program, and if so, who would I contact for accommodations? Because I am legally blind for the CBEST test. And then my second question is there a Braille exam that we would have to take, or do we have to do Braille outside of the program?
Miguel, I'll preface that. Are you looking into the O&M program or the TVI program?
Oh, the TVI program at SFSU.
There you go. That is directly to you, Ting.
Oh, okay. I might need to call for an assist here about the CBEST question. Sandy, do you know more information about CBEST, not CSET?
Basically, the CBEST exam, let me say, first of all, because of the pandemic, you don't have to take it necessarily before you're admitted to either program, O&M or TVI. You just register. From what I know, it is, you can definitely have accommodations. I believe the educational testing service that provides the CBEST will be your source for requesting accommodations. I'm going to leave the Braille question to you, Ting.
Yeah, okay, thank you, Sandy. I was kind of trying to buy time to find a link here for you, Miguel. And okay, here we go. So I'm gonna throw a link into the chat just in case this is relevant. I know that you can definitely request alternative testing arrangements, and that's what they call it on the website. It's called alternative testing arrangements. We have had several students who are either legally blind or have low vision or totally blind come through the program. So I know that there are accommodations available for the testing. Our program also includes 2 courses in Braille. First semester is usually focused on the literary Braille code, and then the second semester is Nemeth and scientific notation in Braille. And all of our students do go through both of the Braille classes. For even people who are maybe transcribers who already know Braille, or people who are Braille readers, we can customize the course for your learning, but we do ask that students go through and take both of the classes because it's another level of expertise to understand how to teach Braille. So it's not just about knowing the Braille code, but it's about knowing how to teach it as a mode for literacy. And Miguel, we actually have several other transcribers in the program right now. So if you have any other questions, please feel free.
Okay. Yeah. Along with that, I heard UEB Technical over in the conference. I took a workshop, and I guess they're really starting to phase out the Nemeth. Are you guys looking into incorporating UEB Technical into the program?
Yeah, this is a state-by-state decision. It's more a state decision rather than a program decision. Cheryl might have a little bit more information about this, but to my knowledge, I don't know if California is making that shift just yet. And it's one of those things we have to wait for California to make the decision before we as a program will make that change. So right now, I don't have that information because I don't think the university programs have been given that information yet. Cheryl, do you have any more information about that shift?
Yeah, what Ting said, it is a state-by-state decision. I know that at Cal State LA, we do have UEB Technical in our first class, our literary class, but right now we're in the process of developing curriculum for UEB Technical. So if we do make this shift, we would have something in place for that shift as well. I know that we're working really closely right now with APH, and there is there's a very strong sense that there cannot be bias between the two codes. So whatever we promote in Nemeth also has to have an equal amount of depth in UEB. And that's one of the things that Cal State LA is working with in one of our grant projects.
There is a question about grant funding. Noticing stipend for ON. Oh, this is specific to San Francisco State, but maybe everyone could just real briefly again repeat if there's grant funding or scholarships available in each of your programs for O&M and TVI.
I can go first and answer the question directly, and then other people can review. So for our TVI program at SF State, unfortunately, we don't have grant funding, but we do have multiple scholarships available. So the scholarships were just updated so that we've got probably a total of anywhere from 5 to 8 scholarships that are awarded every semester, I would say. And depending on if you are attending for part-time tuition or full-time, the scholarships have been updated to fully fund whatever your tuition need. There's also an emergency fund available for people who need emergency funding. And there's always backup funding if you need assistance with instructional materials. And we also do support students to attend conferences.
For the SF State O&M program, much of what Ting just said is true. We have multiple sources of scholarships available through the university, but we also have outside organizations that provide scholarships. We have the Donald Blosch Scholarship, which is a national O&M only, the Northern California O&M Association, which provides scholarships to just San Francisco State O&M students. There's an organization that Ting and I work with called Friends of TVI and O&M. They provide scholarships, and these can range from $500 to $1,500 or $2,000 or sometimes more. In addition, the O&M program does have a grant, which is where the stipend money comes from. And it's that personal shortage thing in O&M. The government gives us money for students to go into the field to try to meet the need. So that will pay most or all of your tuition for at least 2 semesters, if not more.
At Cal State LA, we are running 2 different federal grants at the moment. We have Project PEDS, which is a dual credential program in O&M and VI. The candidates who come into this program will be required to get their master's degree either in VI and O&M, and embedded within the master's degree, they also come out with 2 credentials, one in the O&M program and one in the VI credential program. And you are able to choose where you want your master's degree to lie, either in the O&M and the VI. And it is something where you typically, depending on which credential you start with first, is what is going to dictate what you end up having your master's degree in later. So some folks who are working currently in the field start in a TVI pathway and add on the O&M. While on the other hand, if you're able to start in the O&M, then you can add on the TVI later. So that's Project PEDS. The second program that we're running right now is Project PIP, which is a collaborative grant with Rehabilitation Counseling, and you can either get a Master's of Science in Rehabilitation Counseling or a master's degree in special education with an option in teacher preparation. And this program is collaborative in a sense that TVI will be taking classes in the rehabilitation counseling program that are specifically related to transition. And the students who are getting a master's degree in rehabilitation counseling will take classes in the VI program. Both of these 2 programs are a federal grant program offered by the Office of Special Education Programs, OSEP, and they come with a 2-year payback provision, which means that for every 1 year that you get funded, you don't pay it back monetarily, but you pay it back in service. So given that our master's degree is a 3-year program, then you would pay back 6 years of service. So for many of us who are entering into the profession and are going to work in the profession and fall in love with it, 6 years of payback is not a long time, given that you are given full tuition and also a professional library of books that encompasses most of the textbooks that you would use in either the VI or the O&M program.
now I'm mixing things up in my brain. Brenda and Nick, did you get a chance to talk about that for O&M? Or did Cheryl encompass that just now?
No, Cheryl covered it beautifully. Thank you.
Perfect.